Hi students, last class we learned about Newton's first law of motion. What Newton's first law says to us, if you take an object, that object remains in the state of rest. Or if you take an object which is moving, that moving object remains in the state of moving until unless when you can apply external force. So Newton's first law says that objects don't want to change their state. To change their state, we need to apply an external force. From this concept, we learn about inertia. So inertia tells about the natural tendency of objects to remain in the state of rest or uniform motion. That's why Newton's first law is also known as law of inertia. So today we will learn much more about relation between inertia and mass. Suppose if you take the definition of inertia, a body at rest continues to be at rest, and a body in motion, it wants to be in motion. So this is what we learn from the Newton's first law. If a body in the state of rest, always it wants to be in the state of rest. Or if a body in the state of motion, it always wants to be in the state of motion. And this property only known as inertia. This property is known as inertia. So inertia tells about how the object state. So this inertia is also known as Newton's first law of motion. Now let's see the relation between inertia and the mass. The inertia of a body is measured by the magnitude of force required to change the state of the body. Suppose if we want to measure the inertia of a given body. Suppose if we take here, I am having a big textbook. So if you want to measure this textbook inertia, so how we can measure the textbook inertia? So the force which I applied to lift this object. So this object is at rest. Now I am applying a force to lift this object. Now how much force I applied on this object, that gives the measure of inertia. Suppose if you can increase one more textbook on it, book over book. Now should I apply more force or less force? Obviously I need to apply more force. Why I need to apply more force? Because these two are having more inertia. Suppose if we can add some more, 2 and 2 more extra. Now here I need to apply more force. Why I am needing to apply more force in this case? Because I am added books, I added more books, and more books causes more inertia. So to measure the inertia of a given object, what we need to measure? We need to measure how much force we need to apply it. Let's take an example. Suppose this is an elephant. So if I am applying a force to move this an elephant, so I don't think so I can apply force to move the elephant, because elephant is huge, it's having huge inertia, it's having inertia is more. Why? Because its inertia is more, because it's having more mass. So that's why the mass and the inertia both are related. Suppose if you can take one more example. Suppose if we take a weightlifting case. Now here we can see, to lift these weights, so we need to apply more force. Why it is necessary to applying more force? Because the weights or the mass, so here they are more, so inertia will increase. Inertia will increase due to its mass of the object. If the mass of the object is more, the inertia of the object is more, because we need to apply more force on the object. So that's why this mass and inertia, they both are related. Now, how we can measure inertia? We can measure inertia by applying force. Now, here we finally define inertia. The force required to change the state of a heavier body is more than the force required to change the state of a lighter body. Yeah, this is common sense. On heavier body, if the heavier body is at rest, if we want to move the heavier body, what we need to apply? We need to apply more force than the lighter body. Here you ask a question yourself, why we need to apply more force? The answer is that the heavier object having more mass than the lighter object. So let me take one more example, final example for inertia. Suppose you take this as a heavy box with a full of load. And this box is without load, or this box is empty. So in the first case, we need to apply more force. Force is more. Why force is more? Because inertia is more. Why inertia is more? Because mass is more. You got it? The relation between the inertia, applied force, and the mass. So if the heavier object is present, to change the state of that heavier object, we need to apply more force. Why we need to apply more force? Because heavier objects are having greater inertia. Why they do have greater inertia? Because they are having more mass. Similarly, if we can take this example, lighter object. Now, to change this lighter object, now this is empty. To move this empty box, now the force is less. Why the less force is required? Because box is empty. If the empty is box, inertia is less. If the inertia is less, what is the reason inertia is less? Because its mass is less. So a force which is required to change the state of an object, that gives the measure of inertia. Or if you can take, the mass of an object is measure of its inertia. If inertia is more, the object mass is more. If the inertia is less, the object mass is less. If the object mass is more, we need to apply more force on the object. If the object mass is less, we need to apply less force on the object. So this is how inertia and mass is related. Just you try yourself one small example. We easily push a small vehicle. Just take a bicycle. We can easily push a bicycle because bicycle having less inertia or it's having less mass. So our force is sufficient to push the bicycle. Suppose to push a car, so we need to apply more force on the car to push a car. Why we need to apply more force on a car? Because car is having more inertia. Why the car is having more inertia? Because the car mass is more. So I want to know that how to measure inertia. First, what I have to see? I have to see mass of an object. Just think about this. Suppose if you see a big stone, a very big stone, just like hill, its mass is more. Obviously, which is more? Its inertia is more. So inertia is a property. It's a natural tendency for an object which is in the state of a rest or in the state of a motion. How this inertia property came? The inertia property came due to because of its mass. So if finally I can conclude by saying that if mass of an object is more, then to change the state of that object, we need to apply more force. In other words, you can say if the mass is more, inertia is more. If the inertia is more, we need to apply more force. Likely, if the mass of an object is less, very less, so its inertia is also less. So in that case, no need to apply more force. So this is how mass and inertia are related. So the inertia can be measured by measuring its mass. The inertia of an object can be measured by measuring its mass. So this is all about mass and inertia.